Penn State versus Kentucky in January. No, Steve, it's not a basketball game. You still got to call a football game.
Okay. No, there's no Calipari?
No Calipari. And Jay really stepped up the fashion game, looking solid.
Hey, and Penn State's going to the land of the Magic Kingdom. Let's see if Trace McSorley has some more magic left in him before he leaves Penn State.
You really are styling. I got to give you credit for that. Really. How much did that cost?
$10.
Right.
At the Woolworth store right up the street.
The Blue-White Tailgate is next. And we welcome everyone to Blue-White Tailgate, the Bowl edition, as Penn State gets ready for Kentucky in the Citrus Bowl. Coming up in the show, we'll take a look at the Penn State offense, the defense, a complete breakdown of Kentucky, both offensively and defensively. Jay will take us into the film room and take a look at some really interesting tape to help you get you ready for the game. And they land in the Citrus Bowl, all right? So this is an interesting spot, Todd, for them to be in, especially against a Kentucky team that's put together what they call, you Magic Kingdom, a magical season.
Yeah, we watched it closely to see if they could get themselves into the New Year's Six Bowl. Fell just outside of that and had a chance at the Peach Bowl. But look, it's a good top 15 matchup against an SEC team. I think it's a good matchup for Penn State's defense. I'm not saying Kentucky's one-dimensional, but they're pretty conservative offensively, and with a defense that we'll talk about a little bit later that's evolving. I think this could be a pretty good matchup for them.
And Penn State's history in the Citrus Bowl, which you know all too well, Jay, because you've lived all these games. Penn State 2-3 in those games, but some significant wins along the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, the LSU one was the last time we were in it, and we won it. And
it's the last time they had grass in there, too.
Well, pouring down rain, grass coming together. Say, well, good news, we're putting in field turf next year. That doesn't do us a whole heck of a lot of good today. And Colin Wagner, I mean, you see these golf guys complain about their lives. I mean, he was kicking out of a ditch and won the game. Did a great job.
And beat Tennessee with a big game that set up the '94 season in '93. That's what the Citrus Bowl has done for them over the years. For Trace McSorley, he knows big spot because they can make some history.
That'd be huge, obviously, for our team. That's our goal, and that's something that it's hard to win 10 games 2 years in a row, but I think it's harder to win it 3 years in a row. I mean, if you look at teams that are able to do that, it's, you know, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, those programs that are always at the top. So if we can do that, I think that it puts us in a really good spot for the future, and it's something that testament to all the hard work that we put in this year.
80, 81, and 82 the last time it happened. Look, I think it's hard to win 10 games in a season under normal conditions. I think they've done a good job of getting this back so they can be in this spot.
Well, we're playing more games. 10-3 is the new 9-3. Really
Sure.
is what it is. I mean, no disrespect to winning 10 games, but you know, it's a different situation. You know, you have conference championship games, you have a bowl game. So the 10 win doesn't quite mean what it used to, but it's still significant.
Yeah, definitely a good benchmark, and usually it means that you've won your bowl game, and I think that's a mark of a really solid program is when you can stay motivated. How many times do you hear people talking about, oh, well, what do they have to play for? Steve, you've mentioned this, but they got a football game to play for. Yeah. This is what you come to college for. Yeah. It's what you put in all that work. The difference, and now more so than others, you realize what the football players do. All those practices, guys, all those practices, it's so you can play the game and go out there and play hard.
Absolutely, and it also, as I mentioned earlier, can set up the future for you. For Penn State, that's a distinct possibility with this game. So let's go to the PSECU update desk. Josh Sperber with a glance into the future.
Here is your pregame update, sponsored by PSECU. With an impactful senior class graduating and a host of underclassmen considering the NFL, this bowl season could be time to shine for a young Penn State core. We've seen a showcase of young talent for Penn State this past regular season.
Lamont Wade and John Sutherland are two guys that are real talented. They got that bite in them, that defensive mentality, love to come down and hit, and also have the athletic ability to be in coverage. So I'm real excited about those two.
You've seen throughout the season, you know, we've gotten better and better each game. I think, you know, like you said with the young guys, I think they just got more comfortable out there, you know, it's a lot different getting practice reps than game reps, and you saw a lot of young guys grow up fast, like obviously Micah, Etor had another great season. So I think we're just better as a defense. Everyone's doing their job when they're supposed to be doing it, and I think we've gotten a lot better.
With players from every class here on all conference teams, including 3 freshmen All-American, there's nowhere to go but up for this Penn State program.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. Now, Penn State and Kentucky haven't played that often over the years. In fact, it's been almost 20 years since they played each other in the Outback Bowl with Tim Couch at quarterback. Just some initial thoughts on the matchup, Jay.
Well, I think a lot of fans, a friend of mine said, well, I wish we were playing Florida or whatever. Look, you're playing a top 15 team. You're playing a team that beat Florida, and, this is a good matchup. It's a good, and you got to win it.
Yeah, exactly. And for Florida, I mean, a big opportunity for them. They can win their 8th game against an FBS opponent this year. Yeah, great schedule. We'll talk about the defense and its improvement after this. Football seasons are rungs up the ladder. As you climb up the ladder, you want to be playing your best football at the end of the season. Todd, defensively, I think the consensus is Penn State was playing its best football at the end of the season.
No doubt. We talked in August, and it was, we got a lot of players to replace on the defensive side of the football. And then you watched the Appalachian State game, and you went, we got a lot of guys to replace on the defensive side of the football. For defensive coordinator Brent Pry, he did see the progress, maybe not as quickly as he wanted it to, but it was there.
We saw signs each week. We knew where some limitations were and where some growth needed to happen.
A young group of Nittany Lions was pushed to the brink in the opener against Appalachian State. The overtime victory was an eye-opener for the players and coaches. It's been steady improvement the rest of the way.
I was never necessarily discouraged, only disappointed, because you hope guys make strides in a timely fashion that equals wins, equals good defense, and I think it was good progress for a group that had a bunch of new faces in it.
They lost 4 starters in the secondary after the 2017 campaign. The Lions lose 2 more when the Citrus Bowl ends, Amani Oruwariye and Nick Scott. And they want to cap off their careers with a solid performance against Kentucky.
I'm going to be back home, get back, in my culture of 75 degrees, sunny, palm trees. And then obviously get a chance for, my family to be able to, people who haven't got to come up here, get to see me play. So I'm excited for it.
When I was new at safety, I was just trying to, soak up as much as I could, just asking them questions in practice and stuff. And, they did a really good job of, bringing me along as a young guy, and now it's my turn to do that.
One of the key youngsters is the team's leading tackler, Harrisburg freshman Micah Parsons.
The fact that Micah led our defense in tackles and started only 1 game tells the tale a little bit. My hat's off to him for the year he did put in. A young man that had never played linebacker. He's got a big offseason in front of him, and he's got obviously great potential, so it's going to be exciting moving forward.
Yeah, what a difference after this season now, guys. Instead of saying, we got so many people to fill, it's now awesome. Now we got all these guys back. And I think when you want to produce a really solid defense, you get an elite player at each level or at each layer, right? Yeah. And you want Etor Gross-Matos along the line, maybe Micah Parsons, some linebacking help. Secondary, got a couple guys to replace, but they're starting to build that, right? And that's what you want to see is those leaders at every level of your defense.
Yeah, you want to see what they do in the offseason. I think that's going to be the key is, are they going to have that same commitment to improvement? But we'll see.
All right, let's take a look at the tail of the tape, the Penn State defense and the Kentucky offense. Kentucky is a run-heavy offense with Terry Wilson, along with Benny Snell and the wide receiver Lynn Bowden. Penn State's defensive numbers outstanding and pretty well balanced defensively in terms of their numbers, especially in the second half of the season, Todd.
This is one of those time of possession, move the chains kind of offenses that they want to keep your offense off the field. Somewhat one-dimensional. I think you mentioned Wilson, his prowess in running the ball also. Look, this isn't an offense that's going to wow you. In conference play, they averaged less than 20 points a game. They were 9-3. They're 5-3 in the conference, much like a lot of the SEC. They boosted their schedule non-conference-wise. So we'll see what they can do. But it's not something, Jay, that they're running up these huge numbers.
No, I mean, and they really don't care. They're going to play really good defensive football, and they're going to take care of it, and hopefully come out ahead in the turnover margin is the way they look at it, and they're going to run the ball and not turn it over. And they really have done a pretty good job of that.
And here's an oddity for you, all right? Kentucky plays in the SEC. They're about to play their third consecutive non-conference game. Okay, think about that for a moment. All right, let's get to our Blaze Alexander Defensive Player to Watch, brought to you by our good friends at Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Well, Josh Allen this year has 18.5 tackles for losses. He's a first-team All-American, Bednarik Award winner, Nagurski Award winner. Yetur Gross-Matos has 20 tackles for losses. He actually has more tackles for losses than Josh Allen does. And in the second half of the season, I thought he was special.
Oh, I think no question about it. He was a major force in some of the games they played in terms of the run game, because they played some run-heavy teams, and he really stepped up and made plays.
Yeah, if not for that slow start to the season and compiling those numbers, if it was been a little bit more consistent, spread out, his name would have come up a little bit earlier in the year for some of these postseason awards.
I thought in the final 3 weeks of the season he was unblockable. I mean, I thought he was unblockable. Now it's at the point where if you want to throw the ball, you want to keep a back or a tight end in to chip on him. I mean, that changes the dynamics.
And look, Coach Pry said, Steve, Yetur Gross-Matos has the capabilities of being one of the best ever that he's seen at that position that he's been around.
Well, they have to use that defensive line to help set up the linebackers against this ground game. Jay and Johnson discussed what they feel they need to do as linebackers in this game.
I think just our gap accountability, just making sure everyone's in the right spot where they're supposed to be, because, the ball may not be coming, your way, but you need to make sure you're in your gap so it doesn't go that way and goes to, someone else to make the tackle.
It's not as if they can't throw the ball, because obviously they can. Terry Wilson could throw it. He actually started at Oregon, then went JC, and then went to Kentucky. But they want, as you said, Todd, to work the clock. They want to play. That's their way of playing complementary football. We'll score with our running game. We'll eat the clock, keep the defense off the field.
Well, the thing is, Penn State's got to be careful of is the play-action game, because when you look at some of the big plays Kentucky's had in the pass game, they've got everybody play and run. Next thing you know, he's out there, and when their quarterback gets on the edge, Terry can run and he can throw, and that's a dangerous thing, and he can make big plays with his feet.
Yeah, and anytime you can disguise what you're going to do, even if you're running the ball, and just get a little bit of leverage edge, anything that you can do to get the guy reacting a little bit slower, that helps the down and distance situation for the team to keep themselves on the field.
I mean, it's not like they don't have a game breaker at wideout. Bowden can be a game breaker. They'll also use Bowden at times in the Wildcat. They'll use Snell in the Wildcat. Now, they're not going to throw off that, although Bowden did try one pass this year. But Wilson, with him, it's actually when he sits in the pocket, his footwork is not that great. It's when he moves he's effective. Fair?
No question. And that's what Penn State's got to be careful of. Got to keep him in the pocket and make him throw in there.
All right, we will take a look at the Penn State offense and how they match up with what is a pretty dynamic Kentucky defense as we continue after this. All right, let's turn the bowl page to the offense now and take a look at what Penn State's done. We talked about the defense and the great improvement they made down the stretch. How do you look at the offense?
A little uneven, I think, would probably be the best way to describe it. Some games look very good, and then some games struggled, and the third downs have been an issue. The time of possession has been an issue, but almost every game they were, with the exception of Michigan, they were right there with a chance to win it.
I wanted to let you field that one first. See which direction it took it, because
sometimes you look and go, wow, this is what they can be, but you're looking at a baseball offense, and they're hitting home runs and they're striking out.
Yeah, no doubt. And we talked about the evolution of the defense and how much they had to replace defensively, and they did a pretty good job of doing that. Offensively, had a lot to replace as well. I mean, a lot of guys that are playing on Sundays in the NFL, they had to replace, and it took them a little while. And I think the passing game regressed some. I think Trace's injury really hurt them in kind of that meaty part of the schedule where he was limited. I don't think maybe they didn't realize how big a part of the running game he had to be this year in order for them to be successful rushing the ball and just offensively in general. And I think that's the one thing that will change. You saw it in the last game, right, against Maryland when he had his quickness back. That's going to be there against Kentucky.
Yeah, and Trace McSorley set 6 Penn State records this year, one of them being wins, 31. He's going after his 32nd, cementing a legacy.
Obviously, I want to leave a legacy as a winner. Someone that came in every single day. The expectations weren't necessarily super high, but exceeded those expectations. And I had goals for myself, and I went out and I achieved them. And it was just by coming in every day, being humble, working hard, and elevating the level of my teammates.
It's interesting, too, about the young talent. Josh Sperber referred to that in the update segment in the opener. And when you look at it, there was one point where the Hippenhammer redshirt freshman, Hamler redshirt freshman, Freiermuth true freshman, Dotson true freshman. These are the guys he's throwing to.
Oh, no question. I think that was a big difference this year. I mean, who's the guy that you look at this year and say, here's the guy who hung his hat on in a key situation? I think one of the things that was interesting is, this offensive line came in, was a veteran offensive line, and really did not perform up to that level. When you look at the sacks they gave up and the inability to run the ball in some key spots, and that's a group that they have the guys back next year, that's got to be the biggest difference.
It was hard for Trace to reach that comfort level with any of the receivers that he had gone a couple of years with. And just the thing about this particular game is 3 years to the day, we're going to see Trace McSorley's last game from when we saw his first action in the Tax Slayer Bowl. And I think the thing that I'll remember the most, just watching him play, is how much fun it was to watch him run the offense and how many amazing moments he created just offensively in big games.
Well, let's take a look at the tail of the tape, the Penn State offense, and what's a really good Kentucky defense. Look at the just 16 points a game. Hard to run on at 151. Pass, not that bad either. It's going to be an interesting matchup between the two. And a big part of that defense is Josh Allen. We looked at Yetur Gross-Matos with 20 tackles for losses. Allen, the Gursky Award winner, Bednarik Award winner, 18.5 tackles for losses. And of those 18.5, 14 are sacks. Josh Sperber takes a look at a very special player who's gone from 2-star to 5-star.
Coach Franklin had an interesting strategy to try and rattle Josh Allen before the bowl game.
I was following him on Twitter and sending him a bunch of direct messages like, "Hey, you may want to save yourself for the draft," but that he didn't. Obviously, that didn't work.
The senior linebacker is an invaluable part of Kentucky's defense and is someone that Penn State's offense surely will keep an eye on come New Year's Day.
He's exceptional pass rusher. I mean, he's always creating havoc. He's creating fumbles. He's really making quarterbacks move off their spot. Pass rushing downs, he's really good, and he's extremely active. He's always running down the ball to the other side of the field. He plays with a really good motor, so it's going to be a tough challenge for us. But I think our guys up front understand the type of ability, type of player he is, and they're preparing accordingly.
The consensus first-team All-American was 4th in the FBS in sacks and tied for first with 5 forced fumbles in a season that included a long list of accolades.
When you're considered the best defensive player in college football, and the way he's been able to impact the game in so many different ways, that's probably what's been so impressive. How twitchy he is, how productive he is, his length. In terms of what those guys are looking for at the next level, he kind of fits the model.
Allen will play in the NFL next season, but first looks to cement his legacy as one of Kentucky's best football players ever in the Citrus Bowl.
They had a player like that was a defensive end, Art Still, who played in the 77 game against Penn State at Beaver Stadium. I mean, look, he could have gone to Monmouth. And I'm not joking. He could. That was his other Monmouth.
Yeah, that was his other one. Well, it just goes to show you the recruiting is inexact science. I mean, everybody gets all these 5 stars and all these guys, and you realize those are the guys that make you a better football team, are the guys that come in without a lot of accolades, Trace McSorley being one of them, Josh Allen, probably the 2 best players on the field that are going to have an outcome in the game, where guys that not everybody thought was a can't-miss guy.
Makes him even more dangerous, doesn't it? All the immeasurables about a guy like that, to go from a 2-star to a 5-star player and that type of thing. And as a linebacker, to have that many sacks, he's coming in clean. I mean, it's not something you're going man on man with him. You're not going to see where he's coming from necessarily for the offensive line.
Yeah, no question about that. And again, they'll have to somehow figure out a way to contain him. Our Blaze Alexander player to watch, brought to you by our good friends at Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. And on offense, we're going to say it's running back Miles Sanders. If he can get something going, Todd, I think then that changes the tone of the game.
No doubt, and that's going to take the offensive line controlling the line of scrimmage. And Miles Sanders does a great job of going north and south, and he's keyed up and ready to go, and certainly wants to make a big performance out of this one against the Wildcats.
If he can do a good job, it would help out the pass game, because this is not an easy team to throw the football on.
No, in fact, you look at their pass efficiency rating and on defense, they're very good. You look at what they give up, they're good, and it's going to be one of those things that Penn State's got to run the ball.
All right, so coming up next, it's a trip to the film room. Jay and Ty, we're going to break down some of the keys to Kentucky, how they play, the matchup with Penn State as well. We'll go to the film room I know you're all sick of watching the holiday movies. Now here's a real football movie you'll enjoy as we continue with more after this.
Who says school's not in session over the holidays? Welcome back into the film room. It is brought to you by Beer, Belly's Beverage, and joining me is the State College Santa. He didn't go into the closet for the vintage sweater. He came out with
No, I've given gifts. Santa's been giving gifts for 5 billion children around the world.
That's right.
What's one more day of gifts?
That's right. We're going to ask for a gift to our viewers to break down the Kentucky Wildcats, Jay. Look, the non-traditional SEC school. We'll see what they've got. Maybe a little conservative offensively, a lot of talent on defense. What did you see when you broke it down?
Defense. And let's take a look at how much better they are this year as opposed to last year. Dramatic improvements in every category. And when I say dramatic, you're talking really, really dramatic. And that's going to be the big thing. And let's take a look at how they do it. First of all, we talk about how they are against the run. They're going to try and leverage everything. Whether they're in the nickel against Penn State's 3 wideout set or not, they're going to try and leverage and bring everything back into these safeties. So take a look on film here how they do this. You see the outside guy's going to take on that wideout, and now you run the ball and both safeties are coming downhill. And when I say aggressive, they are very, very aggressive. And 2 senior safeties, as we talked about. So here you're going to look at a play where Georgia's going to run the football. They're going to bring a linebacker into his gap integrity. And not only that, now this backside safety is going to come up and he's going to make a tackle in the backfield. We're not talking about 3-yard gains. We're talking about in the backfield. And take a look on this film how aggressive they are. There's your linebacker comes up there, doesn't quite make the tackle, and there's a safety to clean it up and clean it up with authority. So they're going to have to, Penn State's got to be ready to play action pass. Those things open themselves up for play action passes. Now, Josh Allen. Everybody's going to talk about him. Great football player, no question. He's a guy, pass rush, 14 sacks. So here you're going to see Florida really adjusting their protection to take care of him. The one thing about Josh Allen is he'll drop into coverage. When he drops into coverage in this 3-4 scheme, now you have other people coming free, and you're going to see what happens. Take a look on the film. Florida's going to keep 2 guys checking Josh Allen. All of a sudden, they're overloading to that side, and here comes a linebacker free, and Florida has to throw the ball away. Now, as I mentioned, the 3-4 front gives you a lot of variable blitz schemes and variable coverage schemes. Here again, Josh Allen is here. They're going to, the tackle's going to be looking at how do I block him. He's worried about this guy coming off the edge. He's going to be out there. All of a sudden, here comes the linebacker. And now Josh Allen, as good as he is rushing a passer, as good as he gets a run, you're going to see on this play, he knows how to hold and cover. And I mean hold. So take a look at this on film. That guy, the wing comes out, he grabs a hold of him, but he runs with him down the field on the wheel route, and he's there in coverage. So again, he's not just a one-trick pony. Now, in the red zone, which is key, Kentucky's good against giving up touchdowns in the red zone. Penn State is good at scoring them. They're very aggressive inside the 10. Here you're going to see Josh Allen coming. They're going to play straight man behind us, so take a look at how they do that. Again, when Penn State gets inside the 10, they're going to have to try and do some things with the pass game because Kentucky's going to try and make you throw it down.
May not have a lot of opportunities to score. You certainly want to plug it in right there. Okay, we're going to hear from Ki-Jana Carter coming up later in the show, right? Pretty good running back. They got a good running back as well, Benny Snell, that they like to feature.
Yeah, and this is a guy that's led the SEC in rushing to it, I think maybe all 3 years now, and very tough. And coincidentally, from Westerville, Ohio, which is Ki-Jana's hometown. So there you go, all kinds of things tying him. But so let's take a look at him. He's a big back. And how do they run the football? They like a lot of power run game. They're going to pull guards. And as we've heard, they like to get a lot of different formations. So here you've got an overloaded formation this way. You got trips to the field. Georgia kicks their coverage that way, and now they're going to run a play on a little counter play, and he's going to read inside, outside. You take a look. And again, as you know, Georgia's a good defensive football team. Pull both the guard and tackle. They get out there. Now he's on the edge and in the secondary and the backside. And formations are going to be important. And take a look at this again, how aggressive he is. And when he gets to the point of contact, you better bring it. Now, same kind of blocking scheme. Now, not only does he run the ball, but he'll also block. So instead of pulling the tackle on the backside, now they're going to pull the guard, bring him, and now your quarterback's going to run the ball, and he's an effective runner. And again, you've got to line up and know what's going on because they can hit you a bunch of different ways. So take a look at this shot here. Again, great overhead shot here. The guard pulls, he gets around the edge. The running back comes around the edge, and there's a safety, there's a shot to get him, and Allen gets outside and makes a play. Now, they also run the zone scheme that we've seen. Again, very aggressive from front. This is a good offensive line. They're going to come off the ball, get up to second level, and here's a 3rd down and 1 against a good Georgia defense, and they're going to take this ball, go north and south, and you'll see how hard he runs on this 3rd down and 1. These are going to be key downs for Penn State to get off the field, and Penn State's done a pretty good job in the short yardage stuff this year. Now, one of the things, if you have a quarterback that's not necessarily a great passer, one of the things you can do is get him cheap passing yards by running these little shovels, which in my opinion shouldn't count as passes, but they do. But they're going to block the edge, bring these guys out, and again, you're going to see Snell come out here and block again, gives this quarterback a quick pass completion, he gets on the outside. Take a look at this. And again, they've got some speed that they can utilize in some of these plays. And again, there's a 15, 16-yard completion for a quarterback on a pass that you and anybody else can throw.
Pretty interesting matchup. The State College Santa in the film room, the gift that just keeps on giving.
Well, you know, I'd like to tell you I could definitely gift a win to Penn State as a Penn State alum, but that's going to be decided on the field.
All right, much better than the Jelly of the Month Club.
Yes.
That's for sure. The gift that just
Keeps
keeps on
giving.
That's right, Clark. All right, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. We're going to be back. We told you Ki-Jana Carter is coming up next. We're going to hear what he has to say about the Citrus Bowl matchup.
Welcome back, and as Penn State gets ready for the Citrus Bowl against Kentucky, one of the true all-time greats in the history of Penn State football, and you can argue he's one of the great running backs in college football, Ki-Jana Carter. Ki, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you with us.
How you doing, fellas? Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. How did you look at the Penn State football season? Because you're always keeping a close eye on it, especially the stretch run. How did you feel about how they played?
Well, I believe blue and white, so I'm one of the biggest fans. I guess it's obviously I'm glad how we finished at the end. Very happy, we bounced back from those tough losses to go on that nice little win streak. But at the same time, it's frustrating because the 2 of the 3 games that we did lose, we were up double digits again in the fourth quarter and we lost, and this to the same teams we lost to the year before, the exact same way. So it's a little bittersweet because obviously the way the college football season turned out, if we'd have took care of those couple of games, who knows where we'd have been at. But at the same time, we got a young team. A lot of these kids that played, especially on defense, really you can see them mature and blossom throughout the season. So I think the outlook is very bright for us going into to the future.
All right, let's dial into an area of expertise for Ki-Jana Carter, and that is running backs. You and I had a great conversation last year on the show about Saquon Barkley and what you liked about him. So now let's look at Miles Sanders. He's a different kind of back than Saquon. What do you see pro and con in Miles Sanders?
Well, I mean, the pros obviously know when obviously the great player that Saquon was, leaving to try to follow up that legacy is going to be very, very tough. But very proud of what Miles done because he was the top back in the coming out after Saquon. So he really stayed to the grind and just waited his time. And that's the good thing. Now it's a good lesson for kids out there to see because. Like when I came out of high school, I was an All-American, but I got redshirted. Yes. Back then, freshmen didn't play, and now kids are thinking they're going to play right when they get to school, and they don't want to wait their time and work hard and basically wait their turn. And it really shows you, what Miles did. The patience that he had is stuck with the program, and when he had his time to shine, he did it. So now I think with him is obviously great balance. He's able to, just like Saquon, elude that first tackle like any good running back. To get 1,200 yards, you got to be able to break tackles. So he's done that well. And another thing really surprised me, really out of the backfield because he hasn't had really time to, showcase his talents over the last years of being a person that was good out of the backfield, and he did well when he had those chances. Now, obviously, the cons, towards the end, putting the ball on the ground a little too much, and the drive, I think, against Ohio State, which you don't know if it's his or Trace's fault, but don't matter, the ball still went down. And a couple of those key games, the ball has touched the grass, or I guess you say turf now. But towards the end, we was able to bounce back from that and still win those games.
In 1993, Penn State had losses against Michigan and Ohio State, but then had a strong stretch run, and you played in the Citrus Bowl against Tennessee. What did that stretch run and that game against Tennessee do to then set up the 94 season?
Well, I mean, anytime you can, you always want to win your bowl game, because that leaves a positive feeling for obviously the fan base, the school, and the team, because this is your last game, and you always want to end up on a win. And with our team, it was our first year in the Big Ten. We were, obviously, we always play like the tough teams like Miami and Notre Dame and things like that. But getting into the Big Ten, we wanted to come in there and establish credibility and being one of the top teams. And then obviously, we lost to the two perennial powerhouse teams that throughout the history of the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan. So let the sour taste in our mouth. And then going into the Citrus Bowl, well, we knew we had a lot of people coming back for the next year. But at the same time, just like I said, we wanted to end on a positive note. We had a nice win, comeback win against Michigan State to get us into the Citrus Bowl. And we just wanted to keep that momentum, keep it going. And then obviously going against the SEC, Tennessee will always talk a smack how fast they were and all the speed and this and that they had, and we felt kind of a little disrespected because we might not look fast, but we know we were, and we were tough, and so we had a point to prove going into that bowl game.
Well, that's because you have northern speed. Hey, you have northern speed, don't you?
That's
When
right.
it comes, hey, just very quickly, quick 30 seconds here. How'd you feel about seeing Kerry Collins get into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, it's a long time coming. It's always good to see we're getting recognition from guys from our team. It was a magical season. Kerry had a wonderful season being the Big Ten Player of the Year and Maxwell Player of the Year, blah, blah, blah. And it's finally good to see that all his hard work got paid off, and he got his name enshrined into that Hall of Fame.
We took all those votes away from you in the Heisman. That was.
We did for each other, but it was a testament to our team. Granted, we wish that one of us would have won it, but hey, you know what? To say we had two of them like that, hey, I'm more happy.
I have to kid you about that. That's all. Because you both deserve the recognition. Your turn's coming. All right.
I hope. I mean, it'd be an honor, but you don't hear no talk about it, so I don't know.
The career you had, your turn's coming. Hey, thanks so much for the time, Ki. We really appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Thank you too, fellas.
Ki-Jana Carter coming up. We'll take a look at Kentucky as we continue with more Blue White Tailgate after this. Welcome back, Penn State, Kentucky in the Citrus Bowl. Let's talk about Kentucky now. And John Stroh posed the question in our high-level meeting behind closed doors, is Kentucky becoming a football school?
No.
No. Okay.
In relation to a basketball school, no, it's always about Big Blue. It is always about Big Blue and their basketball program as a blue blood program on the hard court. But they're certainly growing something, though. I mean, they're growing as a football program. There's no doubt about that.
Look, you want to be successful in intercollegiate athletics today across the wide spectrum. You have to really be good in both football and men's basketball, because that's where you're going to make your money. Big Blue makes a ton of money out of Rupp, and they make a lot of money in the NCAA tournament. Also, I'll say this. Of all the years I've done basketball, there have been many times where I've crossed paths with Kentucky somewhere along the line. Penn State may not have played them, but they were in the same tournament, something, or a doubleheader. No fan base travels better than Kentucky basketball anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not even close. It's
Well,
unbelievable.
That's why it's a basketball school.
Yeah, it's a hoop school. Now, they'll sell a lot of tickets for the Citrus Bowl. There'll be a lot of people. Yeah, okay, fine. All right, Mark Stoops, the head coach. Let's give credit where credit's due. Mitch Barnhart has given him 6 years to do this. There was no short rope for him, and now they've been able to put together a 9-win season. He is the only coach over the last 6 years. He's, I think, one of 5 coaches over the last 6 years that has either equaled or bettered his win total each year.
But you know what's unique about him, and I think James Franklin has unique perspective, guys, as to trying to build a non-traditional football team in the SEC with Vanderbilt. Let's say, for instance, Coach Franklin stayed at Vanderbilt and got a 5th, 6th year trying to build the program. It takes that long to make a splash, to make a difference. And so I applaud Kentucky for sticking with Coach Stoops and letting him try this. The key is going to be, can he retain it, Jay? Right. You know what I mean? Can he keep it at this level?
And you know, one of the things you look at, the running back is a kid out of Ohio, and he's expanded some of their horizons. I've known Mark a long time. You know, he was at Cardinal Mooney High School in Youngstown, Ohio, along with Pelini and all the other Stoops brothers. I mean, just a great tradition there and a great hard-nosed football coach.
I also applaud them for this. They know who they are. No, there are too many athletic departments that don't know who they are. You know, they know we're a great basketball school, but we need more help in a longer-term build in football. They understood that.
Which I think is the key for a program that's a non-traditional football program to do that, to have an identity. It's much like Indiana or a school in the Big Ten, trying to build something in a certain way to play football so they can recruit, Jay, as you mentioned, kids to fit their system.
Well, we've talked about Terry Wilson at quarterback, Benny Snell at running back, Lynn Bowden at wide receiver, but up front they're really good, led by an All-American in Bunchy Stallings at guard. For James Franklin, that's where coaching is going to come into play as to what you call and when.
They're going to be trying to do things formation-wise to try to get an advantage in the box based on numbers or leverage or angles, and we're trying to find a way, in each formation to have a numbers advantage and feel good about our angles and leverage and things like that. And that's the chess match.
And Terry Wilson is a big part of that chess match. He's a pretty good decision maker with what they do at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, he's been careful with the football by and large. And again, he's also been careful in, do I try and force the ball downfield or take off and get 8 or 9 yards running?
Yeah.
And he's had some big runs where he took off and got 30, 40 yards. And Penn State's got to be careful about that.
Yeah, he pretty much targets Bowden as well. It's not like he's a big distributor of the football. I mean,
he knows where one is.
Was it last year's bowl game against Washington? 9 different receivers for Trey. You're not going to have that kind of situation with Kentucky. I mean, you're just going to be targeting Bowden a lot, and then there's a big drop-off as to the guys that have catches.
Yeah, Snell's 110 yards away from the all-time Kentucky rushing record. He has said he's going to turn pro, but after the game. And now we get to the defense, and Connor McGovern knows the matchup up front will be critical because of how Kentucky plays with its front.
They like to push the offensive line back, make reads, able to push, pull, get off, make sure the linebackers are able to make good reads. So it's all not about like maybe the glory for themselves. They're more about freeing up their linebackers and just being physical up front.
Front defense. So Penn State's seen plenty of those this year. Wisconsin has done it. I mean, a lot of teams have done it. But they take those 3 down linemen, they sacrifice them for the linebackers.
Well, I think one of the things we talked about in the film room a little bit is you get so caught up in Josh Allen, and we got to swing the protection to him, and now all of a sudden you're overloading to his side. Now they're bringing a guy from the other side. So because
and that's Watson, and Watson's very good.
And because of the 3-4 multiple nature of their front, it's a little bit more. And with the bowl game, the good thing is you have more time to work on those things.
Yeah, and when you're playing to your linebackers, the athleticism that they can bring to it, the side to side, kind of hiding where they're coming from. I mean, much like their offense, they're disguising their fronts, they're disguising things that they're doing, and it makes them a really interesting and difficult team to deal with.
And Daniel, the inside linebacker, is a very good player as well. He doesn't get a lot of tackles for losses, but he plugs the hole really well. Then in the secondary, Edwards has 2 picks this year, but 10 in his career. West has 3 interceptions. They're a tough team to throw on.
2 seniors at safety.
Yes.
Right? Experience at safety always leads to good things.
And good tacklers. That's the one thing. You're not going to get a lot of really, really, really big plays, and you got to be patient. If you're playing this kind of defense, you got to be patient and understand that if your punter comes on the field or your place kicker comes on the field at the end of your drive, you've done a good job.
Right, exactly. And they've done a good job of that. In an era where we talk so much about offense, Kentucky plays really, really good defense. And it's a compliment to how they play their offense as well. Coming up, the good, the bad, and the ugly as we continue and finish out after this. All right, you've been waiting for it. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the good, the bad, which should be a very interesting ugly today. All right. My good, it's bowl season. I love bowl games. Like to just sit down, relax, watch games. That's my good. You have the bad.
The bad is for the Big Ten. They got a one-loss champion that won the conference championship, and they're not in the playoff. That's not a good sign for Ohio State. It's not a good look for the Big Ten as they are sitting outside of the Final Four. I'm never at a loss of words, but I'm going to stop right there because I can't wait to hear what Jay has to say.
Okay, ugly. Here we go. Recruiting visits, dressing kids up in team uniforms. Former players, first of all, that to me is, you earn that right. You don't get it just because you're visiting, number one. But that I can deal with that. Now we're dressing dads and brothers and relatives in uniform. First of all, dads, you don't look as good in that uniform as you think, number one. Number two, we're turning this thing into a joke. It's a joke. So, cut the crap out. Let's grow up and let's, have kids pick schools because they want to go and get an education there, not because you let dad dress up like a clown. I didn't beat around the bush on that
That's right.
one, did I?
Told you it'd be good.
I really felt that Todd and I plowed the road very,
Very
got
nice.
out of the way very nicely.
Uniform should mean something.
Yes. All right, let's get to our picks. First one, Joe Moorhead, Mississippi State, and Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. Josh, what do you have in that game?
Noah Fant will miss the Outback Bowl to prepare for the NFL Draft, and that is a huge loss for Iowa. He's their best tight end in an offense that revolves heavily around that position. I think Joe Moorhead's going to eat some bloomin' onion and lead the Bulldogs to his first bowl win as a Mississippi State head coach. Jay?
I got LSU and UCF. I think UCF wins this one, and I think it may not even be close. LSU's too one-dimensional on offense. UCF is explosive on offense. I think this is going to be another prove a point that UCF deserves to be just outside the playoff again.
All right, I got the granddaddy of them all, Ohio State and Washington. If the Huskies wanted to win this game, the last thing they wanted to hear was Urban Meyer is retiring. Dwayne Haskins is elevating to be the #1 quarterback in the draft potentially. They want to end on a solid note. I think the Buckeyes are going to take this one.
Well, I get the last game of the day, and that's the Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Texas. A lot of this is going to be what's Georgia's interest. Let's start with that after losing the SEC championship game. But you know what? I think Texas is a lot better than people realize. I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I think Texas beats them. Let's have some fun. Texas wins.
That's right.
Like, what do I,
punt.
right? I mean, and Georgia will fake a punt just when they need to kick it away. Perfect. Let's outthink ourselves. Okay. All right, let's get to the Aaron's Keys to the Game, brought to you by our great friends at Aaron's. We have broken down every phase of this game. And after a careful evaluation, Todd, what are your keys after everything you've heard over the past hour?
It's taken 3 years to see what he can do. Trace McSorley, I think, is the key to this game in his rushing. Being healthy, being able to move the ball, being able to move the chains. Look, Kentucky's very athletic defensively. They got great linebackers. Trace is going to have to feel the pressure and move the chains.
I think Penn State's going to be pass defense. We know Kentucky's going to try and run the ball. They're going to stop. Penn State should have a good job of stopping that run game, because they've done with most teams that are one-dimensional. But Kentucky does have a player in their pass game who can make big 60, 70-yard plays, and Penn State's got to make sure that they don't give up a big play in the pass game.
Can't make this into a Kentucky has the ball 32 or 33 minutes. You got to stay away from that. You've got to force as many 3-and-outs as possible, and Penn State's been pretty good at that. Penn State's stop rate percentage this year, for the year, is 79%. In other words, they've stopped 79% of the drives without a touchdown or a field goal. A lot of people don't realize that. Kentucky's is 70. For all the talk about Kentucky's defense, their stop rate is 70%. So Penn State's actually better. Go ahead, Todd.
And we didn't talk about special teams that much. These are the kind of matchups, low-scoring matchups, right? You're talking about Blake Gillikin might be, we talked about with Washington last year, could be one of the MVPs of this game, moving with the kicking game and special teams.
One other thing you talked about is with the bowl game and the formations and stuff, we talked about Kentucky doing some things.
Yeah.
You got to weather the first 20 minutes of anything they throw at you that you haven't seen yet.
All right, so let's get to the Happy Valley Cruise. All right, this is coming up. It's going to benefit Special Olympics. Sail the Bahamas on Royal Caribbean. Numbers right there, 800-242-8076. Or you can go to www.happyvalleycruise.com. The cruise is going to take place March 4th through the 8th. A lot of former players will be there. Jay will be there. Sue Paterno will be there. It's going to be a great time for a great cause.
I've already packed my Speedo. I'm sorry.
Okay, Jay, the point was to get
people to go. Okay, you're right.
Want to go, Jay.
You're right. I know.
Okay.
I will be in a full wetsuit and Viking helmet.
Happy New Year, guys. Enjoy the games.